Well, today I'm going to do a video on jobs that went wrong, masonry jobs that went wrong. And I think the best way to start this video out is to tell you what the old-timers told me. Remember the old-timer telling me this. He says, these are 8 things you're always going to have trouble with. Winter work, working over someone else's work, flat roofs, buried pipes, outside drains, retaining walls, crawl spaces, and women, and not necessarily in that order. Well, I'm going to comment on 7 of them, but not the last one, because he's the guy who told me that. So the first job I'm going to tell you about that went wrong is a winter job. And what happened was I had to build a brick chimney, which I won't build chimneys anymore. Nobody uses them. It's old school. Everybody uses metal anymore, or power vents. But it was already coming into December, and my rule of thumb is I don't take any work after Thanksgiving. And I try to force people on that. Well, they kept putting it off and putting it off. Well, I didn't get a chance. I'm going to get the brick. I'm going to get the brick. Then the contractor went down. He got the brick. He got the cement. He got the sand. He got it all set up for the water. The only thing I had to do was come up and put the chimney up. He even had the scaffold up. Well, comes up into December, he's dragging his feet. It snows 17 inches, the brick's frozen, the sand's frozen, the water's frozen. Then they're yelling, you got to get it done. It's a remodel job, and the owner's moving into the house, and they don't have no heat. They had the heat going out of the inside flue, so they didn't want to do it. I decided to do it. Trying to heat the bricks up, trying to heat the sand up, trying to heat the water up, putting antifreeze in it. I'm building the chimney, and I'm not looking way down beneath me because I could build a whole brick chimney in a day on a 1-story house. And the bottom bricks are squeezing as I'm going down. The joints are getting small. I didn't even see it until I'm walking down the scaffold. The labor didn't say anything. Then when I got to the very top, the chimney tipped a little bit. So what was I going to do? They called me up. What the hell did you do? You did it all wrong. I didn't want to do the winter work. I tried to preach that. So I had to go down in the summer. In the spring, rip it down and redo it again. And that's why I don't like winter work. Another job, I had to do a concrete floor inside a garage. Now they had the roof on, and they didn't have the sides on, and I told them, I said, winter's coming, you gotta get this in here before the frost hits. They dragged their feet. I kept telling them, I'm going to Florida, whatever I'm doing. And sure enough, November 3rd comes, we had a big freeze, everything froze. The water on the lakes were 3 inches thick. You gotta get the concrete done. The floor's frozen, and I kept telling the owner, I don't want to do it until the spring. You're not using it anyway. Wait until the spring. Well, April 1st comes, everything's still frozen. It's frozen 2 feet down. I got to put plastic all around it. I got to put the heaters inside of it. I heating it for 3 days. Then I get the concrete. They deliver it. Don't think that their rocks ain't outside and their sand ain't outside. As much as they say it's not frozen, it is. And the cement gets a little soupier as you go. So I had to pour the garage, and I had to heat it for 3 days. It didn't go wrong. The floor wasn't wrong, but it's all that aggravation stuff that I don't want to deal with. So that's as far as winter work goes. And it's always someone's got to sucker you into something. So I used to tell everybody I'm leaving town. I won't be back to Florida when it comes to winter work. Working over someone else's work. Sometimes you work for a contractor, and they'll call you up, and they did their own masonry work. They put their own blocks in. They put their own footers in. They poured it themselves. Sometimes I'll help them to pour it. And guy calls me up. He wants the stone on top of the patio. And patio's maybe 25 feet by 10 feet, whatever it was. And I'm going to put flagstone on it. So it's already poured. Well, the guy didn't put anything under the back end of the porch. So I get done with the whole stone job. A year and a half later, they call me up. The porch sank. The porch sank on the back end. Now what I do is I have to do garage or a porch, wherever they dug out, I go to the footer and I come up with blocks every so often, cover them with some kind of tar paper and sand so the concrete slides over the top. Concrete got to move, because if it holds on to something, that's when you get the cracks. It's got to float. So it's not my fault, but I got blamed for it. The contractor called up some company that drilled down and put the tubes in and blew it up. They put a porch roof over it anyway, and that's the last I heard from it. But that's working over someone else's work. As far as flat roofs go, a lot of times the old timers, you see those old buildings built in the 1800s, 1900s, they're all flat roofs, and if anything, they had a little pitch on them. You know, you see those cowboy movies, and it was all tar paper. So as they go, they keep putting more tar paper on, more tar paper. Sometimes the roof is this thick with tar paper on top. Then they get a snow load and it falls through. But flat roofs are never any good. Now they got rubber and all kind of stuff that they use in the commercial buildings. A different story. Buried pipes. So I moved here to Florida, and I'm watching them down here. And when they're putting a block house up, the first thing they do is they pile it all up to sand, and then they put their forms in, and then they put their plumbing in. Well, I'm looking at this, and they put the PEX in underneath the ground, and then they put all the little things going out from it, shark bites or whatever they use to come up with different parts of the house. Well, what are they going to do when that PEX goes bad? Oh no, PEX is beautiful. Well, here's a piece of PEX right here. You can see the different color. It was in the sun, and it broke, and it started leaking. It broke all by itself. This part is good. This was out of the sun, but anything I tell you, they put an electric line down underneath my house, and they put the sleeve in. That's what I want to get to. If you're going to put something underground, put a sleeve under there so you can pull the old pipe out and put a different pipe in. Now when that goes bad, a lot of people don't even know it until their water bills are going to be running up. I don't know where these inspectors are, these code officials that come up with that, but I do not believe in burying a water pipe unless you have a sleeve in it. I'm sorry. Outside drains. Now down here in Florida, you see patios or garages, and they put a drain on the inside, or they'll put something on the outside. In the Northeast, if you put a drain on the outside, the fall's going to come and all the leaves are going to blow on it, or if you're near a store, the newspapers are going to blow on it, going to cover the drain up. Then it's going to rain, then it's going to freeze, then you got a skating rink. I don't do that. Anytime I could pitch the water away from the house and out of a garage, I always put a pitch on it. I don't like putting drains in the middle of houses. Sometimes they pour concrete, the owner puts a drain in. I'm very much against that. Retaining walls. I can't say enough about retaining walls. I built a retaining wall one time, and we were building it 4 feet high out of stone. You know, you called a stone, at that time it was $12 a ton for a ton of stone. The guy delivers it for another $50. So you get, at the time, 5 ton a day. You know, for $100 you could build a wall, 4 feet high by 15 feet. And the rule of thumb is, as high as it goes on the top, that's the way how thick it should go. Well, we built a stone wall, and as we go and we're coming up with it, then they fill in, then the owner goes, oh no, that's got to go another foot higher, because they're filling in on the top. You can't do that. No, do it, don't worry about it. Well, go another foot higher, then on another foot higher. 4 foot wall turns into 7 feet. What do? They come in and they fill it with dirt. No gravel behind it. 20 years later, the wall's like this. I do not like retaining walls. I stay away from them. That's someone else's job, like I'm not the guy that fills behind them. But I learned I won't do it unless I know someone's going to fill behind it. And then anymore, they're building these walls out of these interlocking blocks, right? If you put water on that interlocking block and that sucks water into that block, guess what? The winter's going to come. Those blocks fall apart. I got a lot of videos on that, retaining walls. It's okay if you're doing a little thing, next to the thing, but if you're building these big retaining walls out of those interlocking blocks, they're not going to last in Pennsylvania. I do not do it. Oh, you got to do it with the engineers. The engineers, everybody wants to tell you that's good, and that's okay, but they'll never sign a paper guaranteeing it. And that goes with the inspectors. I never get a complete inspection report. All he goes, oh, that's good. And they'll tell you, oh, do this and do that, but they won't put it in writing. You know what I'm saying? So retaining walls, crawl spaces, that kind of speaks for itself. If you're going to put a crawl space in, unless you're on top of rock, go 4 extra courses and put a cellar in. You know, what's it going to cost you to dig it out that much more? We actually built houses on rocks, you know, like you see out west, they got the big rocks. You don't need a footer, you're building it on rock. You just keep going with the blocks. I wish I was around long enough to film the videos I did in the old days. Another thing is when you work on someone's house, they usually have that house for almost life. A lot of people, not like a car, they got it 10 years, they get a new car. They own it for life. So you do, I went through life 20 years, 3.5 times. Over 70 years old, right? I heard people say, that'll be good for 20 years. Well, I seen it go by 3.5 times. And when someone owns a house, you could have did the job 40 years ago. They'll call you up and say, something's wrong, right? So they expect you to guarantee that your whole life. That's just the nature of a thing. Jobs you get suckered into. Man, I'll tell you what, you gotta help me, just do this, just get this piece of wall back, just do that. You get suckered into jobs, or you help other people. Say I'm doing, sometimes you'll see me do concrete for other people, and I recorded other concrete jobs, and I said, no, I'm not gonna put that on the internet because I don't like the way they did it. And then I'm watching these other contractors from up north and out west and down south, and they're doing that, you know, and they don't think anything of it. So I got some concrete jobs in the past. I'll have to put them back up. I watch the jobs I take. Somebody calls me up, you know, they're a friend of a friend. I usually say I'm pretty busy, you know, and then I'll say, but because you know so-and-so or whatever, I'll just take a look at it. So I'll drive over. If I look at it and it's a disaster and I don't want the job, I'll say, I'm too busy. I couldn't get to that for 2 years the way I'm going, you know. Stay away from jobs you're going to have trouble with. Bigger jobs, bigger problems. I see a lot of guys go in to take a big job. They're there the whole damn year and they got headaches the whole time they're there. Me, at the end of my masonry career, I'd just be doing foundation repair. I would make more money, I'd have less headaches, and no problems. And that's what I look for. And then, like I said, when you associate yourself with other contractors, they call you up, and you didn't see the job, you don't know what it looks like. All I know is, I need you to just help me get the concrete down. And you go down there and you see the guy, maybe you know the guy, and then all of a sudden, you guys put the concrete in. No, I didn't form it. I didn't order it. I didn't plan it. All I'm just doing is flatten it out. You know, it's not you guys. It's those guys. I just helped them. But they associate you with that. And then if something goes wrong in the future, they think it's your fault. And you get the bad name. So you got to watch out for that. So that's it. I'm sure everybody has jobs that went wrong, or you didn't want to get involved in, and then you got suckered to doing it, and then they complain, and you don't want to go through all that. I'm very picky on jobs I take. I want to try to do everything I do right. And if you have jobs that went wrong, let me hear about it. So thanks for watching. I'm Mike Haduck. I'll see you next video.